Outgoing Republican Senator Mitt Romney appeared on MSNBC for an interview, and numerous interesting moments came of it. We'll start with what I would call the good stuff, good moments where he drops truth bombs on Trump. And then we'll get to a part that really irked and irritated me, but that will be for a little bit later. Let's start with this, where Mitt Romney says the thing that every single democracy Constitution-loving American should be saying, which is that Trump threatens democracy.
Held, but you can't be 100% confident that they'll hold again. Look, there's no question, but that when you have a person running for president who is not willing to say, I believe the outcome of an election, that's a threat to democracy. And when you weaken our judicial system, when you weaken the FBI, these are things that strike at the heart of democracy, and that's one of the reasons we're fighting as hard as we are to shore up these institutions, tell people the truth about them, and hopefully have folks listen to folks like you to understand what's at stake.
But still, sir.
Interesting moment seeing a Republican Senator Mitt Romney imploring people to watch an MSNBC host, Stephanie Rule. But before getting to the second moment that likely, if Trump saw it, would very much trigger him and is not to his benefit, but is absolutely correct, I appreciate Mitt Romney saying that. You all know me and how I really wish the context would be provided, the full story, anytime it comes up. I have a hard time getting through segments sometimes because when a phrase will come up that we often use, like Trump threatens democracy, I feel the need to explain it in detail because so often I've seen the reaction from especially sort of centrist or conservative individuals who otherwise are rational, but they're not quite understanding the pressing nature of this moment and the existential nature of this election, and their eyes will sort of roll when I'll say Trump threatens democracy. Their eyes very quickly stop rolling, if you can imagine what the heck that would look like whenever I actually go through and explain. We're not just saying because of rhetoric, it is by itself really democracy deteriorating type stuff for Trump to deny the election results and to convince people that the only way an election is fair is if he wins or his side wins. So that by itself is bad, but there's so much more. There's so much more. And that of course includes what he's currently being prosecuted for, this alleged illegal scheme to overthrow our election through all these different schemes. The one that I often start with because I think it had the best chance of doing the worst damage imaginable, throwing us into a constitutional crisis, was this fake fraudulent elector scheme, trying to get his vice president to assert as the legal electors just pro-Trump individuals who had signed these fraudulent forms saying, I'm the duly elected and lawful elector of a given state, and I was sent to vote for Trump in a state that Biden actually won, then getting those sent to official governmental entities, then getting Mike Pence to count those instead of the real lawful ones, just throw out the lawful electoral count and say Trump won the electoral college, then use that as justification for him to stay in power despite losing the election. Crazy stuff. Also trying to get local officials to engage in fraud, disenfranchise their voters. And then that all led to, and these lies that were being used to justify those actions led to Trump's followers, of course, attacking the Capitol to block the certification of the election. And that's not even all of it, but it was an actual plot based on actions. And Trump, you could say, barely failed. Next time, he won't have Mike Pence saying no to him. He'll have loyalists in all those positions for whatever the worst of his ambitions are that he wants to enact. And that's the broader picture, and there's so much more to it. But when people leave it at just, he said the election was stolen, I feel like some out there go, well, that's not as bad as he would be a dictator, right? And that's important to add, not to mention his calls for the termination of the Constitution, not to mention him promising to go after media outlets he doesn't like if he gets a second term, not to mention his promises that he'll go after his political opponents, not to mention his plans to invoke the Insurrection Act to crush demonstrations against him. You get the point, etc. I guess is where I'll leave that. Then here's Mitt Romney, even though he doesn't say it the way that I would prefer him to say it, he does admit that the economy is strong under President Biden.
Still, sir, you are an optimist and you believe in American exceptionalism. Why are you so optimistic about our future?
First of all, America is an extraordinarily resilient country. We just had this extraordinary pandemic, and yet our economy is strong, low levels of unemployment. It's extraordinary. And is that because the president is pulling all the levers in the right way? No, it's not. It's because the American people are fulfilling their dreams.
So the economy is strong.
Yes, the economy is strong. There's no question. The economy is doing well. And that's because of the American people. It's not because of the president or the Federal Reserve. They can mess things up. But the American people pursuing their dreams is what makes America work.
Yeah, so just factually, his explanation after the statement I agree with doesn't make any sense, because obviously policy, why would he be in the Senate if he didn't think policy could impact in a positive way, not just a negative way, the economy? And seeing these huge pieces of legislation that are historic, they've been implemented on Biden's watch, and the other actions he's taken, yes, those are having a huge impact on why things are as good as they are. But of course, credit the American people too. Of course, credit private industry and all the different things as to why we recovered in the strong way that we did. But I think it's rare to hear Republicans say, yes, the economy's strong. Yes. Get over it, Donald. No matter how much you hate it, we're going to celebrate the fact that there's still a lot to do, but we have come a long way since you ran the country into the ground, I guess is how you can say that. Then here's the part that really irritated me, and I'll show you the full context, and a little bit later in the clip is what I'm referring to.
This week, leaders in the Republican Party went up to that trial, stood outside the courthouse, and attacked our legal system. How does that make you feel about Republicans right now?
Yeah, I think it's a terrible fault for our country to see people attacking our legal system. That's an enormous mistake. I think it's also demeaning for people to quite apparently try and run for vice president by donning the red tie and standing outside the courthouse. It's just, I'd have felt awkward were I one of those individuals. But I can also say I think President Biden made an enormous error. He should have fought like crazy to keep this prosecution from going forward. It was a win-win for Donald Trump. If Donald Trump is exonerated...
Is that Joe Biden's job, or is that shouldn't there be a separation?
I've been around for a while. If LBJ had been president and he didn't want something like this to happen, he'd have been all over that prosecutor saying, you better not bring that forward or I'm going to drive you out of office.
But I'm pretty sure you support having separate but equal branches of government.
I do, but I also, let me tell you, I mean, you may disagree with this, but had I been President Biden, when the Justice Department brought in indictments, I would have immediately pardoned him. I'd have pardoned President Trump. Why? Well, because it makes me, President Biden, the big guy, and the person I pardoned, the little guy.
Yikes. Mitt. That's an interesting name. I'm just now realizing. Mitt. Got distracted. That's not it. Mitt. Yeah, so first part, he's saying that all the cases Biden should have intervened in. So the principle is it would be horrible for Biden to intervene in Trump's cases to make them worse for Trump and to go after Trump, right? But it would be correct morally for Biden to intervene to prevent the enforcement of the law because Trump is Trump, because he's special. He gets to be above the law, and Biden has to facilitate that, or should in the mind of Mitt Romney. Come on. No, that's not America. You were just talking about America. America should believe in no one being above the law. That should be the country that we live in. And then him saying that on the federal cases, Biden should have pardoned him. A part of the reason that we got here and Trump felt above the law and governed like it and acted in ways that are alleged to be criminal, like super duper criminal. The reason that he felt like he could do that and get away with it, maybe in part has to do with the pardon of Nixon. And so, yes, these sorts of precedents matter, and making sure that future presidents understand you're not above the law. Don't think you're going to get a pardon, and govern accordingly. That's important. And Mitt Romney should understand that, I think. I'll leave it there. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments.